So I've received 2 separate requests from 2 people to do a video on the topic of projection. So obviously this is a point that is bubbling for a few people. So projection in this context is where we imagine or assume what someone else is feeling, thinking, or the motivations behind their actions and behavior. So an example here would be where you are thinking up all of these different reasons why your partner said something. And a lot of the time, those reasons are centered just on us. So they must have said that because of this thing that I did, and now they're angry with me, and they are trying to get back at me, or they are trying to show me that they're angry and not happy with what I did. So that's one example of how we can essentially enforce or impose a particular motivation onto someone else. And very interestingly, pretty much 100% of the time, we don't ask the other person. We just assume that that is why they did that thing. There can't be any other reason. And that's just it. And then we will change our behavior according to that assumption. So what I've seen with myself is that when I'm imagining why someone did something, what is pretty much happening is I am looking at all the reasons why I would have done something in that position, if I were in their position. However, I'm not looking at my motivations if I were in their shoes. There is a difference. So if I'm in someone else's position, it means that I'm still me. I'm still like who I am and how I think, how I deal with things, how I think about things and work through issues and things, compared to standing in someone else's shoes where you're placing yourself in their life, in their mind and how they're looking at things. So projection is where we project our own beliefs and personalities and approaches to dealing with things onto other people. And basically it's a thing of, if I were them, I would have only done that if this had happened, or if I was feeling this way, or if I was thinking this. So it's like it's quite interesting, because a lot of the time it feels like the other person was inconsiderate when we're projecting onto them why they did or didn't do something. A lot of the time it feels like, why didn't they think of me? Why didn't they take the time to consider me, to take me into consideration? Because obviously for us, we are the most important things in our own lives. We are always number one. So when someone else is living in a way in which we are not number one, that very often leads to this experience of, why wouldn't they consider me? When actually the reality of it is, why didn't they make me number one in their life? So that's just an interesting little side note. Otherwise, that process of projection, when we're doing it to someone else, as I said earlier, pretty much all the time, we never actually take time or take the step to actually ask the person, okay, why did you do that? Why did you say that? So my suggestion is, the best way to approach when you have been projecting things onto someone else is, first of all, deal with your emotional energy before you talk. So very often what happens is we get hurt, or we get fearful, or we get angry with the person for all of these imaginary reasons that we've placed on their behavior. So first of all, get rid of those emotional experiences. Get rid of that hurt and that fear and that anger. And the way that you can do that is a process of self-reflection, a process of looking at, okay, why am I feeling hurt? What does this actually show me about myself? Writing is an effective tool in that case, where you write the specific thoughts that you are having, because they're going to give you insight into what is actually the driving factor behind that experience of feeling hurt or fearful or angry or whatever it is. So if you need more support on how to work through bringing points back to yourself and reflecting on points, there's a lot of material within the Destiny website, especially DIP Light, which is a free course that takes you through the basics of using writing as a tool of support, as well as teaching you how to do self-forgiveness. In any case, so once you have dealt with those emotional points and you have reflected back to yourself, okay, why did I react in those ways? Then take the step of speaking to the person. Okay, sometimes that's not going to be possible. In those cases where, for whatever reasons, you literally cannot talk to the person, like for example, if you're a boss and that would be possibly overstepping professional boundaries, then rather just make peace with it. Open yourself up to considering different motivations for their behavior, and factor that into your self-reflection process, and look at how you can adjust, if it is, for example, a working situation, how you can adjust your behavior if it is necessary, meaning that if someone has been unhappy with your work or something like that. Otherwise, if you can talk to the person, talk to them. Open up. Say, you know what, I just wanted to check why you said this in that way, or why you did this in that way, because I don't quite understand. So could you share with me? And be open to hearing them out. Be open to hearing them out without judgment, because as soon as you start judging someone, that tarnishes the relationship that you have or could develop, because it's in a way a violation of trust, because what judgment is doing is essentially, it's just another form of projection, of labeling someone as being a certain way, labeling their motivations and their behavior instead of understanding them. Then the other side of the coin is when someone is projecting something onto us. So this was specifically asked by one of the people who asked me to cover this topic, is how do you deal with someone who's projecting things onto you? Now, this can be more challenging because it's not necessarily something that's in your power to change. So if it is the type of relationship where you can be open and honest and open a line of communication and say, hey, I noticed that you've been assuming that these are the reasons behind my behavior. I'd like to share with you actually what is going on with me. I'd like to share where I'm at, because I have been struggling, or I have been there's this one particular point that I'm quite challenged by. If, however, it's someone you can't talk to, then take responsibility for what you can take responsibility for, which is your reactions, how you respond to their projection, and get yourself to a point of stability, of no matter what they do or say, it doesn't change who you are. You can, however, use their words and their behavior as a way to reflect and assess how you could possibly improve yourself, or how you could improve your communication, or how you could be clearer in your communication, things like that. So that process of self-improvement through self-reflection is always there, but you're not going into a state of judging yourself or feeling inferior or feeling anxious. If those things come up, then that's an indicator that there's something that you need to look at within yourself, within your relationship with you. And that is something that only you are responsible for. And in that case, you can be grateful to that person for showing you you. All right. So I hope that this helps. If there are any points that didn't come through clearly, or you have more questions, then let me know. Otherwise, you can leave a comment, send a direct message. And if you would like to support me, you can do so on Patreon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.